Graham Lockwood is my name, and I ceased to exist 9 years ago. It wasn't dramatic. No thunderclap, nothing broken. Just a silent moment on the stairs, half-shadowed, one hand resting on the oak railing I had sanded myself. No slammed doors. No shouting, only disgrace. Disgrace that began 2 summers ago, when I heard a sentence that cut deeper than any insult ever could. Sarah's voice was flat, cold, harsh. I wish he would simply vanish. Like he never existed. She was in the kitchen below, the faucet running, phone wedged between her cheek and shoulder, washing dishes, unaware that I had come home early, unaware that I had stopped to untie my shoes halfway up the stairs. Unaware that I stood there, frozen, hearing the woman I married write my obituary. I'm serious, Laura. Sometimes I just wish I could start over. If Graham disappeared, it'd be a relief. I didn't move, didn't breathe. It was like the floor was eroding under my feet, slow, cruel, final. We weren't perfect, no, but I thought we were on the same page. Every conference call, every late-night shift, every quiet Sunday where I brought her tea with 2 sugars and almond milk, just how she liked it. I thought it meant something. Apparently, it didn't. Listened as she groaned, hung up, and shuffled out of the room. I turned slowly, went up to our bedroom, grabbed my old army duffel, and headed for the living room. I didn't even glance at the wedding photo on the top shelf of the closet. Didn't touch her side of the frame. I packed only what I needed. 2 shirts, jeans, my laptop charger, a toothbrush. Didn't even mention the emergency card or my razor. As the sun set, shadows reached across the floor like fingers. I zipped the bag shut and descended the stairs. A man already halfway gone. Sarah had turned on a movie. The house was calm. I heard her laugh. At someone else's joke. In someone else's world. One I no longer belonged to. In the kitchen, I looked at the table we had bought together. We argued over it. She wanted something with history. Gray, solid oak. I wanted something sleek, modern. We compromised. I placed the house keys dead center on it, like always, so she'd think I was out running an errand. She'd notice them, eventually, and then she'd know. As I passed the bookshelf, my eyes caught the copy of her first thesis. The one I stayed up editing at 2 a.m., blue ink, encouragement on every page. I believed in her, long before she believed in herself. She forgot that. The front door creaked softly as I opened it. I winced, but I kept walking. Each step into the cold night felt like I was leaving a burning house barefoot. The pain would come later. In that moment, I felt nothing. Just the weight of a backpack and a strange sense of peace pressing like armor across my chest. I didn't check my phone. Didn't leave a note. I drove without a destination until the city lights faded and the stars reappeared. Pulled into a rest stop around midnight and looked into my truck's side mirror. Graham Lockwood stared back, thinner, exhausted, and I knew what I had to do. A motel off Route 8. Cash only. No name. No ID. I sat on the edge of the bed, stared at the faded floral duvet, and whispered something I don't even remember. The next morning, I flushed the torn pieces of my ID down the toilet. If she wants me gone, then I'll give her exactly that. I used a loophole, an old favor, to register a new account online. Wrote down a name no one in Dust Hollow would recognize, Miles Rowan. Not her husband, not a failure, not someone forgettable, someone new, someone she would never find. Someone she could never hurt again. I didn't vanish into the night. I vanished into possibility, power, freedom. I let myself cry, briefly. Then I wiped my face, closed the laptop, and picked up a book on startup funding. I hadn't touched it in 2 years. Shift in tone. Rebirth begins. As Miles, I started over. Exchanged my leather briefcase for steel-toed boots and lukewarm gas station coffee. Worked at a shipping yard outside a city where no one knew my name. Loaded packages, organized pallets. Pretended solitude was freedom. I slept in my truck behind a 24-hour laundromat that smelled like detergent and desperation. Nights, I borrowed a battered Dell laptop from Tyrese, a quiet guy on the late shift who never asked questions. He let me use the Wi-Fi in exchange for helping carry heavier loads. I started teaching myself to code, HTML, CSS, JavaScript. The first time I made a button change color on screen, I felt like I'd performed magic. I studied corporate psychology, investment strategy, watched market trends, took notes in a little black journal with no name, not just about finance. But about myself, I was learning how to rebuild, quietly, without applause, pacing builds, transformation. By 27, I bought my first business, a rundown auto garage with a good location and bad management. Owner was months behind on rent. Desperate. I offered him half in cash. He took it. I cleaned the place, rebranded it, built a simple online booking system. 3 months later, I sold it for triple what I paid. That changed everything. I started flipping businesses like a shark, laundromats, diners, gyms, found the gaps, filled them, walked away with profit at me. 28, I created Rowan Holdings. No one knew the name. But to me, it meant rebirth. Registered it in Delaware. Shielded it so well, even the IRS couldn't trace it back to Graham Lockwood. I sent proxies to networking events. Never showed my face. Operated in the shadows, where I thrived. Every win was silent. Emotional resolution, a ghost's legacy. When I bought my first downtown condo, I didn't throw a party. I sat alone on the balcony with a bottle of whiskey, looking up at the horizon, remembering her words. I wish he would simply vanish. When I learned Rowan Holdings had become one of the fastest-growing capital firms in the state, I didn't celebrate. I ran 6 miles in the cold, breath burning, feet pounding pavement like I was chasing something I'd never catch, because I wasn't done, not even close. In every sale, every investor meeting, every acquisition, I could still feel her voice in the background, bitterness like smoke. Lingering. Faint, but always there. Sometimes I'd see couples on the sidewalk sharing coffee, holding hands, and I'd wonder, what if she hadn't said those words? But then I'd return to the numbers, the empire, the mission, closing, the ghost who became a giant. The ghost years weren't about hiding. They were about learning how to disappear with strategy, how to turn pain into profit, how to be overlooked.